So you probably have a mechanical keyboard of some kind, or you're looking to pick one up. But how many of you have actually opened up a keyboard? I mean, do you guys know what's inside? Hello, I'm Taeha, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys the components that make up a mechanical keyboard. Before learning to build something, you gotta know what parts you need, right? We won't be going super in-depth into each aspect yet, that'll be covered in future separate videos, and for the sake of keeping this video introductory, I may generalize terms or concepts. Alright, a mechanical keyboard in general consists of the keyboard case, PCB, plate, stabilizers, switches, and keycaps. The keyboard case hopefully is somewhat self-explanatory. It's what encases the internals and electronics of the keyboard. Custom keyboard cases tend to be made primarily out of metals such as aluminum, brass, and stainless steel, but you'll also have other materials such as various plastics, wood, carbon fiber, you name it. When trying to purchase a custom mechanical keyboard, I generally recommend most people to start out with the case, as it determines the form factor for your keyboard and therefore some of the other components that you may need to purchase. Form factor refers to the physical size of the keyboard, and you'll hear it referenced in terms of a percentage relative to a full-sized keyboard, otherwise known as a 100% keyboard. Common form factors include TKL or 10 keyless or 80%, 75%, 65%, and 60%, but you could even go smaller with a 40% or 27% if you're a masochist. The biggest mistake that I see newcomers make is thinking that a X% sized keyboard requires X switches. As easy as that would make life, unfortunately that isn't the case, as a 75% keyboard, for example, requires around 84 switches, and depending on which layout you prefer for each form factor, it may require more or less, so make sure you always purchase a couple more switches than you think you may need. Next, we have the printed circuit board, or more commonly just called the PCB. You've probably seen one, they're quite common and not unique to just this hobby, but when it comes to a mechanical keyboard, the PCB essentially acts as the brain. It interprets and transmits the proper signals to your respective terminal device whenever you press a switch, as well as manage other functions such as RGB lighting or Bluetooth capabilities. Additionally, most PCBs that come with mechanical keyboards store information such as layout and layer mappings on board so that you don't need to worry about reprogramming your keyboards every time you switch devices. When it comes to PCBs, they'll usually come in one of two flavors, Hotswap and Solderable. Hotswap PCBs have become rather popular nowadays as there's no need to solder any components, and you simply install your switches by pushing them into whatever form of hot swap mechanism the PCB comes with, the most common one being KO hot swap sockets. Hot swap PCBs are highly recommended if you're new, as it allows you to easily try out the vast amount of switches out there without having to worry about committing to one or soldering. Which brings us to the other type of PCBs where you actually need to solder components. Now, the range of what components you need to solder yourself varies from PCB to PCB, but usually solderable PCBs have most of the major components already handled, and you just need to take care of soldering the switch pins. You can technically forego the PCB in the sense of not physically printing a circuit board and directly connecting your electronic components onto the switch pins with wires, and this is what is known as a hand-wired build. Usually covering the PCB from above rests what is known as the plate. While you can build some keyboards without plates, the vast majority of mechanical keyboards out there come with a plate of some shape or form and material. Common materials that plates are made of include aluminum, stainless steel, brass, carbon fiber, polycarbonate, acrylic, and palm. Now, why you choose one material over the other and how it changes a keyboard is outside the scope of this video, but the plate serves several functions. One, it helps secure switches onto the PCB and keep them straight. Two, it provides an avenue to secure and mount the PCB and switches to the case in interesting and unique solutions. Three, it allows for changes in the feel of the typing experience. And four, it allows for changes in the acoustics of the final build. Next, we have stabilizers, oftentimes referred to as stabs for short. Stabilizers are used to stabilize any of the longer keycaps from wobbling or seesawing like they would otherwise without them, as well as to ensure that the switches underneath these longer keycaps are minimally affected by off-center presses, specifically any keycap that is 2U or longer. Now, keycap sizing and their respective numbers are something I highly encourage you to learn as early as you can, as it is something that's referenced regularly in keyboard discussion. To give you a quick rundown, however, the alphanumeric keys have a size of 1U, U standing for unit, and is the reference that we use to size larger keycaps. And ANSI Enter keycap, for example, has a size of 2.25U, as it is 2.25 times as large as a single alphanumeric key. Now, going back to what I said earlier, any keycap that is 2U or longer will require a stab. Stabilizers come in a variety of designs, with the two main ones being Cherry and Co-Star style, and are either mounted to the PCB or the plate. Which stabilizers you'll need to purchase for your keyboard build will be dictated by what your plate and PCB support, as the cutouts on your hardware need to be compatible with your stabilizers. Probably the most well-known aspect about keyboards relative to anything else mentioned in this video at least, are switches and their types. Linear switches have a linear travel when pressed, meaning they require a uniform increase in force to depress the switch. There is no bump or click to the switch to let you know when the switch is actuated. Tactile switches follow a non-linear travel, usually requiring a buildup of force to overcome a tactile event, generally in the form of a bump, around the point of actuation. Clicky switches are switches that have a clicker mechanism of some sorts that generates an audible click noise. Additionally, you'll hear the term PCB mounted versus plate mounted associated with switches, or 5 and 3 pin respectively. Some custom keyboard builds don't have a plate, and in these instances, the 2 additional pins of a PCB mounted switch are crucial in ensuring switches are straight and as rigid as possible. You can easily convert 5-pin switches to 3-pin switches, however, by simply snipping the 2 additional plastic pins, but it goes without saying it doesn't work the other way. I highly recommend everyone to explore switch options. Cherry MX switches are what most people are familiar with, but there are so many other options out there that, in all honesty, are much better. Just take a look at the tons of switch options available from some of my sponsors who are linked in the description box down below. Finally, we have keycaps, the final dressing to a keyboard. ABS and PBT are the two most common materials keycaps are made of. Now, there's this common misconception and almost brainwashing that's occurred, probably due to the gaming industry, that keyboard enthusiasts are tired of addressing. PBT keycaps aren't necessarily better than ABS. Not all PBT keycaps are equal, and likewise, neither are all ABS keycaps, and just because a keycap set is made of ABS doesn't make it automatically inferior to PBT keycaps. PBT keycaps are praised for their ability to withstand shine, and yes, ABS does shine quicker than PBT, but PBT does too with enough use. And beyond shine, there are other important qualities to keycaps such as straightness and legending, which PBT sets tend to lack. As a newcomer, you'll most likely notice enthusiasts use keycaps prefixed by GMK. GMK is a keycap manufacturer in Germany, and GMK sets are the most prevalent keycap sets in the enthusiast scene, despite being made of ABS. They currently have a monopoly when it comes to high-quality, thick ABS keycap sets, due to their ability to color match and crisp legending capabilities that are still pretty much second to none. Oftentimes, the manufacturers or brands involved with the production of keycaps are referenced with acronyms, with popular ones being GMK as mentioned before, Signature Plastics or SP, CRP, and EPBT, just to name a few. You really need to know your acronyms when it comes to keycaps, as keycap profiles, how keycaps are shaped, are also denoted with acronyms. Common profiles are Cherry, SA, MT3, CAT, DSA, etc. Once again, I'll have links down in the description box below that provide visualizations to the differences between these keycap profiles. Now, sometimes you'll find additional components in keyboards. In an attempt to control certain acoustic properties such as pinging, you may find acoustic dampening material such as foam being placed in various areas inside a keyboard. But above all, one of the hallmark components of a custom mechanical keyboard is lube. Yes, lube. This channel will be a place where lubricants will be talked about freely and without judgment, and quite regularly. Lubing your switches and stabilizers are two of the greatest things you can do to a keyboard, and I'll definitely be covering them in future videos, so make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell to be notified of when those tutorials are released. But yeah, there you have it. We've pretty much covered the basics of what makes a mechanical keyboard. Hopefully this serves as a guide to some of the jargon surrounding the hobby, as well as inform your decisions for purchasing keyboard parts. I'll have a couple informative sources linked in the description box down below, including a giant spreadsheet that details tons of terminology and basic information you definitely want to know if you're starting out, created by the members of the Taeha Types Discord server. So yeah, with that, stay tuned for the next video where we might go into some tutorials or maybe purchasing decisions. And until then, see you nerds.